The defense team did not like that some family member comments were addressed directly at them, and there were fireworks.
When these people have sat in this courtroom and watched this behavior from that table, and they want to say that they're not happy about it, what is the problem?
Judge, I have no problem because I have thick skin. But once you bring in my children, I think that's highly improper. I
didn't even know you have children.
Fireworks inside court. Judge Elizabeth Scherer kicking out a defense attorney.
You need to sit down right now. You're out of line. In fact, you're excused.
And dismissing the public defender after they objected to some of the language used by loved ones of Parkland shooting victims.
Judge, I asked you to go sidebar on this matter.
You, sidebar or not, you don't have one of your assistant public defenders say something about my children?
Judge, that same venom that the court is expressing is the same venom that defense counsel had to sit through this entire morning.
Please go sit down.
Judge.
You're inappropriate and out of line.
Anti-Afro Spengalis, anybody can get it. How many times have we heard that term? Anybody can get it, including a judge. And this is the point I'm driving home with this whole situation with Dumpsey, Derell, Dempsey Spears, the Medicare defrauder. Whether somebody has actual power, implied, perceived, if they are intent in dominating through any means necessary, they're going to cross the line. No, they're going to fly and jump over the line. And they're going to stay over the line when they see response is approval. So obviously this judge was in that same situation to the point where she was just basically abusive towards defense attorneys doing their job. It doesn't make any difference what anybody thinks about the verdict or victim suffering because you can't calculate the magnitude. But there is to be a person, a professional in the room who's supposed to represent impartiality to the degree it's humanly possible, at least make the freaking effort, which she didn't do. So let me tell you how she got shut down. The Supreme Court of Florida ruled she violated ethics to the point where they are starting to remove cases from her docket because she's not considered to be impartial. Now we have the situation here with Dumpsey Derell. Flew over all kinds of lines because he brought into the Umar Johnson sector and surrounding spaces and blocks and plopped himself down right in the middle, asserting to have all of this power and knowledge based on having a license. A license is not a right, it's a privilege. And if you don't use it properly, you will have it removed or it will be sanctioned. And that is what ended up happening to Dumpsey. The same thing with this judge. So hell-bent on control. No bounds. I'm going to say and do whatever I want because I'm in this space and we're Black folks and we're not supposed to be reporting each other and effing up the real lives of people. King Kong crazy, go straight to hell. Telling the truth is not messing up anyone's life. If somebody engaged in the conduct, it is their responsibility. Go over to Dumpsey and join with him. Whether anyone out there decides to talk about the fact that Dumpsey Derell's wife is a convicted child abuser, that's on you. If Dumpsey never talks about it, that's on him. That's not relevant. I'm going to talk about it. It's truth. It's out there. It's public access. There's no laws broken. But plenty of laws were broken when Dumpsey got his ass up here paying people to engage in illegal conduct, targeting people for all types of threats, slander, harassment, all based on lies, continuously, repetitively. And people can go ahead and take down videos. Take them down. Take all the videos down. It's not going to hide the truth. There are people out here who will speak the truth, and you snatching down videos is not going to change that. We are not going to be stopped from speaking the truth. 5 freaking years of this bullshit that Dumpsey initiated. Who in the hell would think that they could do something like this and that the natural order of life wouldn't evolve? Who thinks like that? Obviously, plenty of people think like that. Let me tell you, the one thing that has always insulted me the most about Dumpsey putting my name in his nasty mouth is when he tries to compare us as professionals. That's impossible. I'm not on YouTube as a professional. While there's a certain part of your profession that you can't separate, a certain part, there's a large part that you can separate. That is the difference between the two of us. He came here to YouTube trying to self-install with this power based on having a license in the mental health field, constantly telling you how stupid you are, speaking about people in clinical terms, diagnosing people, discounting the role of a client in the therapeutic context, everything that's against the profession, but he brought it here. I have a right as a professional not to bring my profession into a space when I'm not working. I get to say things that I feel personally I want to say that I would never say in a therapeutic context. I have a right to my opinion, but being a therapist is not imposing your opinion on other people. There are people who don't want to report crimes. That's their decision. I don't force, I don't pressure, I don't harass them. Of course, there are exceptions where the law requires you to report, because I'm not going to be sitting in any jail cell because I failed to report, because it is a misdemeanor. It's a criminal offense not to meet your mandate. And that mandate is in effect when you are working within the context of your profession. And Dumpsey's up here all day, every day saying he's a therapist. So he would be having to report in order to remain compliant to law enforcement, to child welfare, CPS. You know he's not going to do anything like that. But that is the quandary that he placed himself in. He's placing himself in that position. So it's an insult whenever he tries to compare us. Our disciplines are not even the same. We don't have the same background. We don't have the same experience. We don't have the same expertise. In fact, he's not a specialist in anything. But he sure comes on here and tries to convince you all that he is. That's another ethical violation that he perpetrates right up here in these YouTube streets. And he keeps beating you over the head because he has a license. I personally feel away from the professional field about reporting crime, abuse, harassment. 100% of the time, I'm going to report it. So that's a separation. He doesn't have any separation. I get to come on here. I get to have my free speech. I get to do all of that. I have never crossed the professional line. People can say that all day, every day, but it really doesn't make any sense because they're not even familiar with that line. You will be disciplined if you violate something that's within the regulations, just like this judge here. You will be disciplined if you violate a very specific regulation. Not liking somebody or somebody calling someone a name, that's not going to get somebody's license disciplined. You have to violate a very specific regulation. And I'll tell you one of the specific regulations Dumpsey is violating. He said his wife was working in that office. That's a horrendous ethical violation. Someone who has been convicted of child abuse cannot work in any mental health facility, private or public. You're going to run into problems like that. But here he is up here accusing so many people of crimes against children, who aren't registered sex offenders, calling them registered sex offenders, calling them child molesters, calling them sexual harassers. And when he said it, he was lying. He said it about me. He said it about Rev G. He said it about Taz. There are many people he said it about. Came up here using a license, plopping himself down in the middle of you all and demanding that you respect him. And he insulted you in the process because you don't have a master's degree, because you don't have an education. Who the hell needs to do that? If you are secure in your professional dealings, why in the hell would you come to a space where there aren't therapists and start trying to impose your power on people. Because it is power. Therapists do have power, and you are supposed to use it responsibly. I don't even reference my role as a professional. It's very limited. If I'm going to give maybe a referral, if I'm going to correct something, anything that I do, like contacting law enforcement, I don't say, I'm a therapist. I'm calling because someone's harassing me. I'm a private citizen. I get to call the police if someone's harassing me. So many of you sat back, and I'm not even going to sit here and say that some, none, or all of you believed anything Dumpsey ever said. But here's one thing I will say. A good number of you were entertained by that shit. Entertained by people's lives being effed with. When I say effed with, I'm talking about concocting episodes, concocting stories, conjuring up situations and scenarios that never occurred, and putting it out there for entertainment's sake. Wanting to make sure that they get a reaction out of the people that they're falsely accusing and lying on. Countless people were lied on. And we're not going to ignore the fact that he targeted people specifically within the family context. Targeted specifically. And you want to know the irony of this whole situation about the child abuse / DV conviction that Dumpsey D. Derell's wife suffered back in 2007. Dumpsey continued in this space to reinforce violence as a conflict resolution skill out the gate. How many asses did he threaten to kick? How in the hell are you providing services to those arrested for domestic violence when you're up here threatening violence? Again, going back to this judge, you can't touch me. Never thought once about the anybody can get it. Dumpsey's the same way. He had such a false sense of security, and how he gained it. So many of you condone his behavior, condone the conduct that he was perpetrating. It was entertainment. But here's the thing that you all never got around to, and you'll never get around to it. If it was so damn entertaining, why didn't you use your own families? Because you wouldn't have minded, right? It's entertainment. Why didn't you offer up your children and your girlfriends and your wives to have songs written about them that were sexually vulgar? If you thought it was so funny that Dumpsey did it with other people, if it's so harmless, what is the reason he didn't write a song about your wife or your child? Why didn't he threaten to kick your asses? Why didn't he threaten your spouses, your girlfriends? Why didn't he call them sluts and whores and you laughed about it, and prostitutes and abandoning children and sexual harassers and all that? Why didn't you participate with Dumpsey in allowing him to come after your families? Why didn't you offer your families up for fodder, for entertainment? Because you know it's not something that should ever have been done. You know that. But decided jumping on the entertainment bandwagon was much too fun to pass up. Pile on, right? You needed a certain reaction to continue going. And if you didn't get a reaction, just laughing with each other was suffice. But you were laughing with each other while you were not at risk. Your family was not the one Dumpsey was trying to burn at the stake. So it was all fun and games. But now that you see all of the things that Dumpsey has said about people he's attacked applies to him. They're going to go right on down to the fat wife. Dumpsey calls everybody fat. What do you think about a person that calls essentially everybody fat and pigs and greasy and all that, as if he was ever entered into a Mr. Universe contest with his pot belly? He is not someone who's in shape, nor is his wife. And I don't care about the wife being in shape or not, but for the fact he attacked all of these women. Dumpsey really went to the extreme, supermax extreme. trying to make sure he placed his opinion, his views front and center, his lies at the top of the heap when it came to describing, characterizing women. All of the things that he despised in his wife, he just simply placed it on women here in these YouTube streets. And now that that's out here in the open, there are people out there who don't want to face it, but that's okay. We are not going to shut up about it because you know good and damn well what you would be doing. There would have already been 6 live streams if anything even remotely similar to this was true about me, about Derell, about anybody out there, anybody in these YouTube streets that refuses to attack people unprovoked. You would be covering it, but that just shows your character all along. I never put faith. That's why I'm saying I didn't put faith in anybody out there who completely ignores the truth, because the lie was much more entertaining. You didn't care who was affected by it. I hope you all don't think that this is the last I have to say about this, because it is not. I'm not going to shut up. No one's going to make me shut up. You don't want to hear what I have to say? Keep your raggedy asses from over here. And you know who I'm speaking to. Until then, you know the drill. Buyer beware.